Hands up. Nobody move and nobody gets hurt. This is a stick up by Jerry and Adrian, the Legalized Robbery podcast.
Joined by the one and only Romanian Stallion. And today we're discussing the Metaverse, a little bit of Solana, the continued bear market in Bitcoin and the rest of the coins, and the Binance UK ban and anything that sort of piques our attention. But first of all, how are you doing today, Adi?
I'm a bit tired. I guess tired. I don't know. I haven't been to the gym today, and I think I'm gonna go running afterwards. I haven't done any sports activities, and probably that's not very good for my energy levels. But other than that, I've been working. Nothing too special today, and it's super hot in Romania. It's like it's way too hot. Like you need to wait until 9 or 10 p.m. to go running, or else you're gonna have to run in 25 degrees, and it's horrible.
Damn.
But yeah, kind of hot.
Yeah, it's a bit humid. So it's warm, but it's very humid, and it's like you can't win.
Yeah.
Either it's too hot and it's dry, or it's very humid and hot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm on the coast now, so yeah, so I'll probably have the coastal winds put me at ease. But yeah.
Is there like humidity in the air?
Yeah.
Usually, and that's kind of cool, right? It's not bad. I mean, I usually enjoy it.
No, it's not a bad thing, but it's like if there's humidity, but there's not too much wind, then it does feel a little weird. It feels sticky.
Okay.
I'm on the coast, so it's actually better. I don't know what it's like in London now. But on the coast, it feels a little better, actually.
Yeah, it's a bit windier and a bit humid. I think that's good mostly for the whole temperature feeling aspect.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Okay, so shall we move on to our topics today?
Yes, go.
I will just run through the Metaverse and why I think it's so exciting. And yeah, just covering sort of the basic aspect of it. And you fill in where you can or where you want. So first, I think it's important to define what is the Metaverse. And the Metaverse is obviously you have verse in there, like universe. Metaverse is virtual.
Okay.
So anything that includes computer-generated environments for users, environments in which they can engage with other users, that would be considered a metaverse. So it has to be digital. Meta means I think beyond. And yeah, obviously universe, verses and universe. I don't actually know what universe, not what universe means, what verse means in that context. I'd probably have to look it up.
It is connected to universe.
Yeah. So now that we know what a metaverse is, a virtual reality space in which users can interact with each other via computer-generated environment, right? Now, why is this interesting for any investment? As obviously on Legalized Robbery, we discuss anything that can be considered as legalized robbery. So having any information about anything new that will happen, and in terms of stocks, in terms of crypto, will create an edge for you. So the edge in the metaverse is that it's following trends that will soon be having sort of large returns. and namely AR and VR. AR being augmented reality, which is having a sort of layer uh,
Mm-hmm.
in your reality. So having certain glasses, for example, that then can put virtual objects in. The same thing. I think there's a lot of the best example in current times is all of the Pokemon Go users.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've ever used Pokemon Go, that is virtual reality. You know, being able to put out your phone and then have that.
It's I think it's actually augmented. Why would it be virtual? Because you're
Oh,
basically
sorry.
seeing it's augmented.
Yes, sorry. I was talking about augmented reality there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Pokemon Go is augmented reality. So you put out your phone,
Mm-hmm.
you point it at objects, and then you have the ball with the different characters, and you can interact with others in that way.
Mm-hmm.
VR, however, is a virtual reality. So you put on sort of huge goggles, and you see an entirely different virtual environment, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And obviously, the technology for this is still very what would you say? It's still very basic.
New.
It's nothing that would remind you strictly of right now, but if you look at the pace at which computer games have accelerated over the past, say, decade or so, um,
Mm-hmm.
it would be really hard for you to distinguish maybe in 10 or 20 years reality between a a virtual reality, because
Mm-hmm.
the pace at which we're improving on this will only mean that in a decade's time there will be a virtual reality that is that you can barely distinguish between
Mm-hmm.
the real reality. And sometimes virtual reality might seem even more real than actual reality, which
Yeah.
would be a
Well.
funny stage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I'd like to talk about in particular is the NVIDIA CEO, Jensen Huang, who weighed in on the metaverse, and he talked about a few different things that we talked about on this podcast before, the blockchain, the chip shortage, and so forth. And the article was on VentureBeat, and just to give a quick summary, he explained why the metaverse would become so important, and he touched first on the end of websites. So the metaverse is already here, right? The best example for it is young children and teenagers, even older ones these days, um, linking up on Fortnite. So back in the day, you used to have people linking up at skate parks, people linking up outside of school, in tunnels, at the at on fields and all sorts, right, on playgrounds. But these days, you really have them linking up on Fortnite, and it's a community activity, right? It's
Yep.
really just an extension of the skate park, so to say, you know. And you're all doing something together, and you're chatting, you're having fun. Some people might have drinks there and everything. So, um, to say that the metaverse is something that will come in the future would probably be an uh yeah an underestimation, because it's already here. If you think
Mm-hmm.
about it in that context, the only difference with the metaverse that um, we will discuss is that it will be virtual reality. So instead of looking at a screen, it will give you the perception that you're actually inside. And I think that's what's really important. And relaying back to the article that I read, Jensen Huang, he basically explained that they 3D model scanned their entire building, but prior to creating their building, they also had it simulated. So they created the building that they wanted the architects to build virtually before, so they knew how the lights were coming into the building and stuff like that, how to space the floors, because they wanted sort of AI robots or autonomous robots to be able to move freely in their halls.
Mm-hmm.
So they were already incorporating for future with potential robots in the workplace. So he was sort of making the case that the metaverse is so important, and virtual reality and all of this sort of progress in this field is so important that and they're so committed to it that they simulated the entire building before they built it. And just that is a huge use case. Think about how many people would love to sort of test run how lights will be reflected in their buildings, how they come in, where lights will sort of create a sort of warmer atmosphere where they want shadows and shade. All of these things, especially in architecture, would be a game changer. So,
Mm-hmm.
so even the metaverse in just in the architecture space is already hugely interesting.
Yeah.
So just to cycle back to our original point, the big case for it is also in gaming. You'll have young people get into this sort of metaverse space, and then go to a concert. Like the Travis Scott one in Fortnite. I'm not sure if you heard of it, but
I've heard of it. A couple of months ago, right?
exactly. He had a concert in the middle of the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic, obviously because nobody was able to move,
Yeah.
in Fortnite,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they sold tickets and everything, and people went there.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Mihai, and and they were all sort of gathering there, and just imagine what could be possible. You link up on Fortnite, right, to go to a Travis Scott concert. The Travis Scott concert is over. You leave the concert and you might see a billboard poster. That billboard poster, depending on how many eyes will see it in the game, say 3,000, and 100 click through, 100 buy like 10 products that were advertising that poster. It creates in-game economics. And furthermore, another way to do this is also you can have art galleries and shows inside of the metaverse, right? You walk into a store of sorts, and then you're looking at pictures, and it's like a clickable link. And that's a further point on websites becoming dead, because just think about the idea. You walk through a virtual reality in a game, say, and then you see an image, you click on that image, it takes you to another place. That place is also virtual. So instead of having to roll through a website, you are inside of a game, and you're engaging with the product like that. So this will then make websites obsolete potentially, because you can go into a virtual store instead of going on a website.
Yeah, but the thing you just said, moving from a game to another application, that sounds super complicated in terms of like how you would actually do it
Yeah,
programmatically. You would need something interconnected at a very technical level. But yeah,
yeah,
let's. It's so for now it's the future. We can just put it there. It's coming. It's here, but it's still in the future. Nonetheless, the prototypes and the ideas, they seem pretty powerful and useful. The use cases.
yes. I'd actually disagree, because I think I can show you. I can
What?
show you an example of somebody going into a store, then clicking
Hmm.
on the product in game.
Okay.
Um, but let me find it.
No, but my point was, if it were about trying to simulate the passage from a game to another application or
Yeah,
another game,
yeah.
in which you would like preserve your state, again, it would need to have a technological rail in order uh, for for it to allow it. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying there isn't. I just haven't researched to see if there's anything similar to that.
You'd be surprised what's out there already. So there's
Yeah.
Upland, right? You can Google it. Upland.
Uh,
They sell virtual property um, that is based on like real property. They don't
mhm.
own it though, which is a little weird. So I don't know how they're gonna work that out in terms of property rights. But it's out there already, so you can buy virtual property and then you can build anything on it. And then, just for anybody listening, also there's Decentraland, which is also a coin called Mana. It's on Coinbase, and it also has a website where you can try out all of the stuff. So these are the first versions. Decentraland is very, I would say, it's not the most advanced, but just to give you a taste of what this could feel like, you can try it out on there and you will see a lot of surprising things. So all of this stuff, it's actually, that's why I said I disagree. It's actually not so much future talk, like it already exists. It's just the graphics are not as updated because they're running art gallery shows there. They're running
Yeah,
mini
no,
concerts there.
I've actually checked it out. So I'm not saying it's impossible inside one application. I'm saying the transition from one application to another might be super sci-fi. Like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
you would have to replicate, for example, the whole internet stack that we have today for basic, like, well, essentially what it is just characters being sent from one place to another, bits, right? So you will have to replicate that and scale it up so that those bits, instead of being bits, they would be like virtual avatars and
Yeah,
basically your whole thing. So basically you would have to pack everything up, put it on the internet channel, and then send it to the other application. And depending on what that would entail, it could be super complicated. But I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, and probably blockchain. I've heard recently in the past, I think 1 or 2 weeks, the term Rails a lot. And for the people who haven't heard of it, Rails, well, there's a programming language, but that's not relevant. I think it's relevant though. I think it might be similar, but yeah.
yeah.
In
Ruby on Rails.
in Huh?
Ruby on Rails is the
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, Ruby is the programming language, and Rails is the thing that runs it. But again, I haven't checked that one yet.
right.
So basically, the whole thing with Rails is you try to create sort of like the ecosystem, the pathway, the tools to do something on crypto. So basically, for example, if Decentraland wanted to become the Rails of virtual reality, they could provide that. So it's the equivalent of as a service, for example, outside of the crypto space, Rails, that is.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like getting this into the mainstream and being adoptable and implementable by a lot of companies at the same time in a similar space. This will likely happen inside the crypto space, maybe in the central land or something similar to that, if they ever want to have interoperability.
But I actually think you're underestimating what actually exists currently. Because what you're talking about, let me just give you one
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
On Decentraland, you can actually order dominoes without leaving the game or the app. Real dominoes. You can order
Okay,
real dominoes. Well, depending on where you live, to be honest.
obviously.
But if Domino's supplies to the place or the country or the city that you're living in, you can order in-app Domino's to your door without leaving the
Actually.
street. Yes, and that's baffling that is
It
in the
is
game.
interesting. It is interesting. But
So
then again, sorry, let me just be a bit skeptical. This
please
could be
do.
super doable in any game. Like give me a game Give me an open source game and I'll program the API call to get an order to Domino's. That's
Yeah,
not sci-fi
but why
per
haven't
se.
they? but why haven't they done that until?
Are you sure they haven't done it?
I mean, you tell me.
No, I haven't heard of anything like websites. It's, for example, imagine like a programming framework, like a CMS, like WordPress. If you have your website on WordPress, you can basically try to access it from someplace else with a like in-page view of that page, but it's kind of bad. So you still end up going to the website itself. So what I'm saying is, if companies are going to do this, they're probably going to need some sort of rails. They're going to code their own website and then people will access it. They won't create websites for each metaverse that will exist because that's like a hassle. That's the equivalent, for example, like a gaming console, you know? So, yeah, it's.
What makes you think that though? Just to play devil's advocate, because if Apple provides their platform, the developers have to they have to learn the code of the platform and they have to
Yeah.
provide for that platform. So I think it depends more on the platform rather than websites deciding individually. If the platform gets big enough, they're willing to do anything to be on that platform, right?
Yeah, but I think this is the big difference between applications and websites.
Yeah.
Websites, you just need a browser to access it. In order to have an application on a smartphone, you need that application to be, well, there are some portability things, frameworks, but you kind of need to have that application written for that platform. So that's why, like, applications are amazing. People have smartphones, but still websites haven't stopped existing because you would think, okay, everybody has smartphones. Like we spoke in the previous episodes, most people even leapfrog, for example, in Africa, the desktop computer. Why are people making websites? And the reason is because making applications is a bit harder. It's not as bootstrapped as making websites is, right? Uh, so like you can access websites from a smartphone, but if you have an application on a phone, it's kind of just locked in for that uh, brand, Apple or Android. Obviously, like a bit programming deeper, you can have an API behind and basically on the mobile platform just have the front end of the application. That's fine, and most companies do that, and that's how they do it. Actually, they have the same backend server for a front end application on a phone or a browser or a website. But ultimately, my point is, if this dedicated aspect of applications would have went the route you're kind of I'm not saying you're suggesting, but you're kind of hinting at, websites would have stopped appearing and we would only have had applications because Android and Apple exists. And basically people would be like, okay, let's just make an application on Apple and that's it. And they're not doing that, obviously.
Okay. So you're saying, okay. You're replying to the fact that I said the end of websites, so to say. Okay.
No. I mean, that's interesting. Like, it's definitely a possibility, but I'll rather see the case where the website becomes like a virtual space that needs to be accessed from a application, which is like a virtual space reader, let's say. So you'll have to have your entry point into the virtual space and then you will go to the application or to the website. You know, this is
Right.
what I'm saying basically.
Okay. So that would make it really interesting because you would need a lot of interoperability. So the website would have to be able to communicate with other metaverses, so to say. But I guess that is really that makes probably more sense than all of it migrating to one, because that would then be the antithesis of decentralization, right? So
Exactly. And people won't. Like, for example, the best example, this is like a super tangent, but Google Stadia. I'm not sure if you heard of it.
yeah,
Google Stadia
failed project,
is.
isn't it?
Huh?
It's a failed Google project.
Yeah, it's kind
One
of
of-
dying. I've been a super big fan of it because honestly, I don't want to spend 1,500 euros on a PC computer to play games on it. I would much rather spend 10, $15 on a virtual whatever, play games when I have to or want to, and then just like be okay. I'm done. I'll play games this month, and then I can do something else if I want to declutter. So I'm a super big fan of this subscription model. What they did wrong compared to some other platforms is the fact that they asked developers to code the game in their own sub language,
Mhm.
and they did it. But there were few games. Not a lot of companies were willing to do it. Some big names did it, but right now the platform is kind of dying, and this might be the main reason why it's dying, because you ask people to come on your platform and do things your way with your programming language. This is the same thing with this virtual space. If you're going to ask people to respect a certain framework and just use this one, and everything they create is only useful on this platform, they're not going to do it because
Yeah.
they realize that's a sunken cost. Like if this decentraland, for example, goes down or loses popularity, that's it. You just wasted a lot of money to create an entity nobody's even gonna touch.
Yeah. Yeah, you would need a lot of trust. It would have to be, Apple-esque, like too big to fail for people to commit that much time and resources to study that
Yeah.
program language. Yeah, I agree. Just to continue the conversation on what the NVIDIA CEO.
Mihai asked a question, and he just said that Romanian fiscal authorities have sanctioned the person for not declaring Bitcoin gains.
Yeah, shall we get to that?
Uh, uh,
After
is there
after we
anything else
touch
on
the
the? Oh, okay. Let's let's
yeah, yeah.
let's wrap this up, and then we'll go back to the
Yeah,
legality.
let's wrap it up before. So NVIDIA actually has a product called the Omniverse, and it's an open beta version, and it's being tested actually by 400 companies around the world. Among them is BMW. They're creating a digital factory. So they're probably doing the same thing where they're building out the factory using sort of visual simulation tools offered by NVIDIA.
Mm-hmm.
And the WPP, which is the world's largest advertising agency, is using it. A bunch of architects are already using it for large simulations. Bentley, which is actually the world's largest designer of large infrastructure in many countries. They announced that they'll use Omniverse to create digital twins in in the infrastructure space,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that means. Upland is selling digital land. Upland that I mentioned before.
Yeah.
So you can actually buy land there, and it's appreciating or depreciating depending on how people the demand. And you have Facebook, who have, I believe, like 10,000 people working on VR, which is, I think, 1/5 of their entire company is working on it. And just imagine that's 10,000 people working on a product that is not released.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, keeping an eye on that would be like really important. Apple, I think in their last presentation, they talked about the metaverse. So I think there's something coming there as well. So all of this was just to say that this space is bubbling, and in the very near future, we're going to see sort of a mainstream adaptation and solutions to this.
Yeah.
And given how prolific the gaming industry has been so far, I think it's only a matter of time until all of these things get adapted to to the mainstream. And all of the really exciting people that are working on it. I'm not sure if you ever heard of John Carmack.
I have, but I don't know where from.
Yeah, he's the creator of Doom,
Oh
the
yeah.
Doom
Mm-hmm.
games. So Doom 1, 2, and 3, and obviously they're the first people to actually use shadow rendering and making games look photorealistic.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, this we'll add this to the description. There was a brilliant book. I mean, it's honestly one of the best books I've ever read. It's called Masters of Doom, and it explains their process on how they built it. And it's just some scrawny two little kids. One was good at one thing, the other was good at another, and they just pushed the pedal till it broke, and innovated in the gaming industry. And the book is such a pleasure to read. So it's called Masters of Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously available for as an audiobook for other people that are interested in it, and in paperback and Kindle or whatever. So yeah, that's that on the metaverse. Um, I think we'll add maybe a few tickers. Vuzi, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Vuzi,
Probably.
VUZI, is augmented reality producer, and they've supplied Microsoft with their recent augmented reality stuff. We'll add that to the links as well.
Yep.
Do your own research. This is not financial advice. Vuzi is also uh, a pick at Kathy Wood's fund, ARK Invest. They've had a bit of financial issues. The owner's been doing a little bit of sketchy things, so I can't recommend them too tightly. They're not in my portfolio, but anybody that's interested should check those out. So yeah, that's it on the metaverse. Um, I think you wanted to talk about what Mihai mentioned here, right?
Yeah. First off, regarding the alternatives, I think one of the best alternatives is actually, surprisingly enough, NVIDIA GeForce Now. And basically, the route they went is having the virtual device as a service, and then basically they lent out a portion of a server with Windows installed, and then you can run some applications inside. I think you cannot install anything outside of some supported platforms, but since most games are available on certain platforms like Steam and Epic Games, you can basically run those and some other games which are higher profile inside the application. And just loads on the fly, and I think it has like games backup and stuff like that. And last I checked, let me just check right now, I think it was like $15 or $20 per month, which again seems like a decent price considering how much you would pay for a gaming PC if you were to buy a full one. So regarding, yeah, it's actually surprising enough, it's also Nvidia.
Okay, you're talking about
GeForce Now.
GeForce Now.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah, it's €10 a month.
okay, so I've missed something. Tell me
What?
again what GeForce Now is for. I know they've got the chip and the graphics card, right?
Yeah. So Nvidia has their graphics card unit,
Yeah.
obviously. Well, they only have graphics cards right now. They want to buy ARM to have processor as well, but they only have graphics cards for now. And basically, they have GeForce Now, which is you get onto a live session on a computer with Windows, and you get that computer to use it. And you can install, there's I think a couple of hundreds of applications you can install. Some of them are like full games, the other ones are like gaming platforms like Steam or Epic Games, which have their own libraries, but since the games are packed and they handle the deployment, you don't have to handle anything in the backend. You
Mm-hmm.
can basically use those and install any game you'd like. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically gaming on demand, gaming device on demand. It's pretty cool. Again, it's €10 a month versus having to buy that gaming computer and storing the games on your computer locally.
Yeah, that sounds like a good solution if you're,
It is. It
a
is.
gamer on budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do
Oh,
you use?
huh?
What do you use?
Nothing. I'm not playing anything right now, and I have my the computer at home. It's an old computer, but it still works. So the gaming needs I currently have are enough. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was using an Xbox One, and I was playing the last game I played was Cyberpunk,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Actually, Microsoft and Sony, they both offer on-demand gaming on their platforms as well.
Oh,
So yeah.
cool. So
Yeah. Let's talk about the legality stuff. If you
yeah,
know the legal status of bitcoins and crypto gains in the UK.
yeah, go ahead.
You go ahead.
I go. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Um, so in the UK, your income, well, the interest that you get on any crypto investments can get taxed, not the actual amount or sum. So anything that you make profit in is liable to be taxed. In the UK, you also have a cash ISA, which is a 20K allowance that allows you to trade money tax free. So there's some ways to sort of circumvent those legislations, which is really cool. Meaning you can make use of the cash ISA, which allows you to have tax-free returns, and also buy crypto on those because on trading 212 you can buy funds that are Bitcoin based or Ethereum based. So by buying those, you mimic the returns that you would get with Bitcoin without actually holding Bitcoin directly. Obviously, I would always recommend people to own their own Bitcoin. So you know how the saying goes, not your wallet, not your Bitcoin.
Wow.
But if we were talking purely sort of tax related sort of maneuvering, and if you wanted to, circumvent the the laws legally, obviously, that's one thing you could do. You could make use of your 20K cash ISA, but you have to be resident in the UK and all of that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And then use that stock investment cash ISA portfolio to buy funds that mimic Bitcoin or Ethereum, and you wouldn't have to pay any tax on that. But if you were holding money, say on Coinbase, all of that gets registered basically to the local authorities, which in the UK is HMRC. And yeah, it sucks that in Romanian fiscal authorities sort of went at someone for not declaring their Bitcoin gains. That does suck, but that's the problem. Maybe we could talk about more private money. There's ways to if you had Argent Wallet, which is a wallet that is both available on Android and iPhones, you can sort of there's a word in crypto for it. I'm not sure if it's on board. On
Yeah, on board.
Yeah, you can onboard yourself via Argent, which uses MoonPay, and MoonPay doesn't send anything to the local authority, so to say. So you could actually buy Ethereum without it being registered anywhere. But yeah, it's only a matter of time until legislation catches up, and that's what the current authorities are doing.
Yeah.
So I think he asked another question. Finally regulates enough. Yeah, I mean this is a really important conversation about legislation and the crackdowns. And that brings us to our next talking point, which was the Binance ban in the UK. So for anyone that doesn't know, Binance is a crypto exchange. I think probably the largest next to Coinbase now.
I think there's an obscure Japanese or South Korean exchange which actually has more volume, but they have purely BTC and Ethereum. and I think they work only with commercial investors, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So Binance is one of the largest exchange among the largest exchanges, maybe like top three, top five.
It's
And
top two after that one, so it's the second one,
yeah,
definitely.
so they have been having a lot of issues recently in the US and also various other countries. Most recently, the UK, where they banned Binance from operating in the UK. Um, it's important to note that they have been previously banned, excuse me, by the UK authorities for derivatives trading. So everybody that was trading derivatives, it just didn't make any sense to do this on Binance. So this doesn't obviously mean it's the end of the road for them. It just means that they will probably launch a different service that doesn't include all of the things that the UK authorities don't agree with.
Hmm.
But in general, I would stay a little bit away from it. And this is making me a little bit bearish on the Binance coin because um, if you look at the amount of things that are popping up with Binance, I think after the authorities went after go after Ripple, there's a high likelihood that they'll be going after Binance. So, do your stuff on Binance. I don't think that's gonna change anything about the coins. It's not relating to Binance, but Binance coin BNB might be affected by this. So just, if you're trading in any of this, if you're holding this coin, just be aware, do your own research, see what might happen, the same as is happening with Ripple. What's interesting with Ripple is that the crowd is so bullish that even though the founders have been found to do fraudulent activities, not doing proper audits. I think one of the founders wanted to withdraw like $1 billion, and then a bunch of the people in the company sued him and it stopped him from doing that. But people are still pumping Ripple. So for me that's enough of a red flag, but I guess for others it's not.
It's not just that. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the main Fed case is because they're a super dubious token/coin in the sense that they're also an asset, but they're the currency as well. So basically, the whole lawsuit, if I'm not mistaken, is about what is their status. Are they a currency or are they a coin? Are they an asset? And that's the main thing regarding that. I'm not sure if similar things are going to happen to Binance because Binance Coin, well, they don't have these problems and they're a smart contract first. I don't know. I get your vibe, but I'm not sure they're gonna come after them more than they have. And regarding the fact that they have come after the exchange, I think it might be, first off, I think it might be good in the sense that Binance is one of the oldest active exchanges. They have had hacks in the past, but they haven't had any in recent times. Like you said, they have a lot of features. They're a pretty powerful entity. And the fact that they're like a snowpiercer right now going through regulations. And yeah, like you said, I think they had some problems in the US, they had some problems in Canada, they're having these problems now in the UK. But I think, I mean, in a positive way of looking at things, I think this will do well for them in terms of their versatility and their prototyping. Because if they're gonna see, okay, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they have Binance Global, and for example, they have Binance Singapore, and I think that's also like a different entity. So I think,
Exactly. But this is in response to the lawsuits, though. So they don't, because ideally what they would want is to launch Binance Global and keep
yeah,
it that way. But instead, what's happening is they launch certain versions. Say in the UK, what they recently launched, and it gets banned by the authorities. Then they launch Binance UK, and
Yeah, but
that
that's
is much different than Binance in the US. And the other issue also is that in the US you have multiple different versions of Binance actually, and some work and some don't. And even some of my friends, they were asking in the chats like, "Hey, send me a referral link from Binance." And one guy was in one state, and another guy was in another state, and he couldn't use his
okay.
referral code. So this is what I mean. Like the regulation is not like that trend is not going to undo itself. It's only going to continue.
Yeah, but if they're smart about it, they will have prototyped it from Singapore. Worst case, they have some prototypes from the US. And
Yeah.
as they go forward, they'll probably have more adaptability than other exchanges or companies which are in the similar space just because they have done it before. So I think it's actually okay. There might be some headwinds in the short term, but in the long term, it's actually good for them, I think. And like you said, with the specific legislation in the UK, with the tax-free IRS or whatever it's called, ISA, right?
Hmm.
Basically, who knows? Maybe they can integrate with that, and they could integrate in that and actually offer more tailored services to British citizens, which is obviously a huge plus for people who live there. So I think, and maybe they can become what uh, Coinbase has become for the American companies. They can become that for other bigger companies, other bigger countries, because Coinbase right now has 50-50 retail investors and institutional investors. If Binance does anything like that in like the more developed countries, that would be a huge win for them. And I haven't heard Coinbase talking about expanding internationally or in other countries. So I think again, it's headwinds. Definitely, it would have been easier if there were no problems, but they are. But if they take these legal barriers down, they have the full road ahead
Yeah.
because at least there isn't any other exchange seeming to push the way that Binance are. So I think it might be good.
I I agree, but partly. I guess regulation is gonna weave out the shitty players.
Of course.
So that's a plus for everybody. You know what I mean? Like things are less likely to go to zero. Or well, at first, a lot of things will probably go to zero, but in the long term, things are less likely to go to zero.
Exactly.
But the other
The,
problem with regulation is that often it can be a hindrance, and maybe the type of returns that we've seen so far were only possible because there wasn't any regulation. So that's another thing. So I'm optimistic, but at the same time, I'm a little bit weary about all of this regulation coming in because that's the one thing that often stops a space from flourishing when there's too many rules. And part
Mhm.
of the reason why crypto has been flourishing so far is because there's just been not that many rules. It's been the wild, wild west, so to say.
Yeah. And like for example, if you look at the internet, it's kind of the same things with Facebook and Google, and for example, taxation and censorship and other aspects. Like the difference is the internet, while it's international, companies are somewhat specific to certain countries, like But in this term, crypto has been global from the beginning. So yeah, it might be headwinds for the whole how should I say, for the whole space to go another 1000x,
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean it doesn't have potential. It's still borderless, it's still decentralized, it still offers a lot of solution, a lot of rails for different services, so it's still good. But yeah, probably we won't see another 100x of the whole space in the next 2 years. That's not gonna happen. Plus it's already kind of big enough. Like it doesn't have the
it's not
capacity.
big enough.
No, I mean, it needs time to grow, like with most investments. Like there might be some crazy growth phase, but after that crazy great growth phase, usually there's a downside, or at least a sideways consolidation of the value of that asset. So yeah, crypto will likely not do another 100x in the next 2 years. It will consolidate, it will build, and maybe in a couple of years it will fly again. That's my personal view on it, though. But so regarding this whole thing with regulations, I think exchanges will have to sort out the kinks. But then you have the idea of decentralized exchanges, which ultimately they're not tied to any country.
Yes, yes, and I think that's going to be also very interesting. Namely, Serum. Serum is probably the best example of a decentralized exchange. But to explain Serum, we'd probably have to explain Solana, and Solana is another one of our picks for this conversation. So Solana is interesting because it is a mix of proof of stake and proof of history. Maybe you can give a quick rundown on what proof of stake is, just like very high level,
Cool.
for our listeners.
I think we've already been through this in the Chainlink episode and smart contracts, but we can do it a small rehash.
Yeah,
So in proof of work, basically the whole concept is like this: I provide mining equipment, like technical equipment, in order to prove that I'm supporting the ecosystem by allocating resources in terms of processing power. So, okay, I'm invested in this. I'm gonna support it, and I'm just gonna use these computers for a day and then go off. So, which means that the ecosystem is supported. There's people like putting money into it. It's likely a long-term thing, right? So that's proof of work. It's
yeah,
basically showing your dedication to the concept, to the coin, to the chain by allocating processing power. The
yeah.
problem with
Just
that is,
just to zoom in a little bit more on proof of work is proof of work. It uses nodes on the network to reach consensus, meaning that there's sort of a few parties, so to say, in the network or the program that have to agree, right? And the nodes, they solve puzzles. Those puzzles are all living on on a blockchain, but the mining computers are used to solve these puzzles, right? And every time a puzzle gets solved, it mines 1 Bitcoin.
yeah.
And this is why you need all of these computers, because they're all working to do this. And the reason why, and that's why it's called proof of work, because they're working. They're working to then result in a Bitcoin after they've solved those cryptographic puzzles.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
And then, like I was saying, like it's a good solution. And actually, I think most people who are Bitcoin maximalists are also proof of work maximalists, but I might be wrong. Bitcoin is purely proof of work. But the problem with this, as you probably heard, is the processing power. You need power to actually, power it up in terms of energy. And if you want to allocate huge processing power, just like with everything in the universe, you need huge energy input. Which means that as the network grows and as proof of work grows, it needs more power. Which isn't bad if it's, for example, if that power is renewable, or if you have like an unlimited source, but we don't have it yet, not to that extent. So proof of work is a bit rudimentary, and it's a bit not very friendly, at least from these points of view. Not to mention then shortages of chips, and just the idea of allocating mining equipment to basically keep a network alive, which is not bad. It's super good concept, but if you have a better solution, there might be a better solution.
Right.
For example, Ethereum, and Vitalik has spoken about this a lot. They decided, okay, they're gonna have proof of stake, and obviously there's a lot of other networks that use proof of stake. Ethereum is gonna migrate from proof of work purely to proof of stake. Cool. Now, proof of stake is basically the same thing, except that instead of showing the network, you support it by having mining equipment of being capable to do work. You support it by holding a token of that network with huge monetary value. For example, I have 10,000 Ethereum and I'm staking it, which means I'm blocking it for the network to use, for me to show the fact that I support the network.
Yes. And to add to that, proof of stake doesn't use consensus like in Bitcoin, where it needs sort of multiple nodes. It nominates one validator to validate the next block.
Yeah.
So just to add on to what you were saying, after that validator has validated the next block, it can move on instead of needing different multiple different factors to
Yeah.
then decide that this block is valid.
Okay.
And it cuts out basically unnecessary processing,
Yeah.
and that's why it's faster.
Yeah.
So I'll take the baton from here.
I
Oh,
just want
sorry,
to
go
have,
ahead.
yeah. While it might seem that, for example, it's risky that somebody with money just comes in and they'll be like, okay, I have a percentage of the Ethereum network. I'm just gonna do bad things with it.
Yeah,
First off,
it's called the 51% attack.
yeah, and
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, I think Vitalik said that you need more than half, and I think he said something you need like almost 70% in order to be able to completely take over the network. But then why would you buy 70% of something just to crash it? That's a totally different story. But
yeah.
up until
You
yeah,
would lose yourself if you did
yeah,
that. So
obviously.
therefore, the incentives are aligned in such a way that you wouldn't hurt yourself. You know, if you own half of the network, why would you want to crash it?
Yeah, but then again, it has internal regulations in the network. If you try to do something shady, people can not context wow can contest your transaction,
Sort of
and
veto.
if you're proven to having been malicious, you basically your stake or a portion of your stake gets burned. So it's a well regulated system.
Mhm. Solana uses proof of stake, which we just talked about, and it primarily, however, uses proof of history, which is a sort of novel concept, and it's based on entropy. So the simplest way to explain this is the law of entropy says that, you know, if a thing sort of ages and you can tell the time that it was aging, you're also able to sort of timestamp it. And proof of history works in that way. So if I was to say, take an image of a banana, right, a new banana, a ripe banana, and then a banana that is like, you know, 10 days old, because of the law of entropy, we know that this never reverses. So you won't have a black banana in the beginning.
Yeah.
You will always know that this is an old banana. And if you took a picture, right, of multiple of a banana at multiple ages, right, you would be able to, if you mix them all together, you would be able to tell which one came first and which one came last, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the same way Solana uses proof of history by using history timestamps. So by using this method, they've solved what both proof of work tried to do and proof of stake, which is needing a validator. Solana does this automatically because of the law of entropy and because of proof of history. So using time as an essential part of the platform, um, it allows them to get through transactions quicker. So one payment was done at a certain time, another payment was done after that, and another payment was done after that. And the block validates this automatically because it knows that it came at that time. And when you hear this for the first time, you think to yourself like, how has nobody
Yeah,
thought of
exactly.
in the first place?
Yeah.
But I guess it's easy to talk about, but it's harder to do. And they somehow managed to do it through the structure of Solana, and this is why Solana is so powerful. I believe Ethereum does how many transactions per second? Maybe like 15,
60?
60. Hold on. Second. 30. 30 per second, apparently, from the street.com. Okay.
Yeah.
Solana does, I believe, 50,000.
Yeah.
So, um, just to make sure I'm not giving wrong information. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. So Solana does 50 to 65,000 transactions per second through this proof of history framework. And this allows them to compete directly with any other platform. And what's crazy about it is that Solana at a layer 1 solution is already outcompeting Ethereum layer 2. So even if Ethereum updates itself, Solana will still be faster.
Yeah, but as I think either Hoskins or Vitalik was saying, you have to give something up. There's
Yeah.
no. So I'm not that well read in Solana, but they were saying this like there's no such thing as fast, reliable, secure, everything. So surely maybe there are some drawbacks in the Solana ecosystems in terms of security comparing to the Ethereum network. But depending on how well that is enforced in applications or something, maybe it's not such a big deal.
Yeah, so basically Solana is that's the difference also. Solana is very open and transparent about what they do. They're trying to they're really trying to go directly for the financial space. Therefore, they are incorporated. I mean, they're getting a lot of VC funding. I think they closed a 450 million round, another 300 million round by Andreessen Horowitz, who are also early stage investors at Coinbase and stuff like that. The founders are all public. It's a very legitimate business if you think about it in that way. So it's different than Ethereum in that regard, because the Ethereum is essentially the people working there are the Ethereum Foundation. So it works more as a non-profit than a business, so to say. So Solana is more incorporated, I would say, and it's also not sort of denying the fact that it's centralized. So you're right in saying that they traded off something for it. But yeah, what is not deniable is the fact that they do have such fast transaction speeds, and for the fact that they are incorporated, they actually are. They have a better setup than say XRP or something like that,
Mhm.
and yeah, maybe that's the closest you can compare it to. Like it's like a legit XRP or Ripple.
Yeah, I mean,
With a novel actually solution, because proof of history is very very legit, and yeah, other coins don't have it as well made as Solana has, and Solana also used Rust to program this coin. And Rust, I believe, is voted as the number one programming language on GitHub, and it's not easy. So it filters out a lot of the non-serious developers. So that's another really big selling point on it. And if you hear the founders talking about it, they're very passionate about the project, and I think the founder Anatoly Yakovenko was his, yeah, Anatoly Yakovenko. He's from Qualcomm, and I think he was there in the early days.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they're a very very impressive group of people working there, and the main narrative is really bringing finance people to crypto, and that's why I think they're straying a little bit away from the decentralized aspect of it. Yeah. So
Well,
go ahead.
I I just want to say the whole thing with centralized, decentralized. Like, obviously, crypto is about decentralization, but like in the end, I don't think we can live. I'm not trying to be like ultra realistic or objective here, but like, there's nothing bad to have some aspects of the market which are centralized. You know, like I think you can have a mixture of both. For example, like we were talking regarding exchanges, some of them being regulated, some of them being centralized, some of them being decentralized. You can basically have an of a crypto ecosystem where certain aspects are decentralized, certain aspects aren't decentralized, and they're centralized. And it's not necessarily the worst case scenario, because in the end, like we were saying in the chat as well, there's always going to be the connection between centralization and decentralization. It's, or at least until everything is AI or everything is computer governed, there's always going to be centralizations. Until we have, for example, governments, we're going to have centralization in our lives. So there will be a deck, a rail between centralization and decentralization,
Yeah, I
right?
agree. I agree.
So yeah.
There will be a time where you have to find a some sort of connection between the two, because like things don't big things don't succeed in silos, so they don't succeed in exclusion.
Yeah.
They only succeed in inclusion. So crypto will at some point have to merge with our traditional financial infrastructure, and that will include some centralization.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
yeah, the question is just what can be avoided and what cannot be avoided.
Hmm.
And the ones that get that right, I think long term win.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we covered pretty much all I wanted to talk about here in terms of Solana. So check out the project. I think they're still under $30. I'm incredibly bullish on Solana as a alternative to um, Ethereum, and it's, in my opinion, it's got the biggest shot at replacing Ethereum based on their team, based on the people working on it, based on just the speed and the ease of use of the platform. I'm not sure if you ever use Serum. I would highly
No,
recommend
I
it.
haven't.
FTX looked at Solana and created. FTX is another exchange, by the way. Looked at Solana and then created Serum right after they saw Solana,
Hmm.
and their
Okay.
price discovery is quicker than the New York Stock Exchange. So and price, and if you're a trader, if you're really really trading on news, on public sentiment, the moment the news hits of something important, it's really the price discovery of the platform that you're using that you can capitalize on. Because
Yeah.
if the price discovery isn't quick enough, you'll miss the boat. So Solana price discovery is crazy. And yeah, again, the platform was created using Rust. I myself am not a programmer. I just know a few, including yourself,
Yeah.
that then explained to me like what are the really the movers and shakers in the field, and Rust being one of the greatest languages I've heard mentioned. And the beauty about it, like I said earlier, is that it creates such a big barrier for entry. And the bigger the barrier for entry, the more excellent people you're going to get through, because they go through the hassle of learning something very difficult, and it shows their commitment, right?
Yeah.
So, they're willing to eat glass, so to say, and stare into the abyss. And yeah, so needless to say, I'm very bullish on Solana. I think everyone should check it out. I think last bull run they came up to $60. Was it $60? I'm not sure.
I don't
Now,
know.
now they're at 30, I think, or below that.
Everything is discounted.
Yeah, yeah. Make sure you get some.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to sum up, our tickers for today was Decentraland, which is Mana, and was it Vuzi?
Woozy.
We mentioned Microsoft, uh,
Nvidia, of course.
Nvidia, not just because of the metaverse thing, but just because they create all of the chips that are needed for autonomous driving, for
Mhm.
cryptocurrency. If you have a digital toaster, you probably need some type of chip.
Not from Nvidia, but
Not
yeah.
from Nvidia, but
Yeah.
um, yeah. So if you believe in any of these things, semiconductor companies are really good, and particularly Nvidia for things like autonomous driving and cryptocurrency. And yeah, then we have Solana and Binance Coin. Um,
BNB.
I'd be a little bit weary on that. Anything you would like to add?
No, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing much. No. I think it was an interesting discussion. This whole again, we'll have to see how this whole legal aspect of the space continues, because it's yeah, it, I think most people won't even pay attention to it. In terms of like price arbitration, I think there might be some opportunities there, because I think most people, they just trade whatever they trade, Dogecoin or whatever, but they don't even consider legal aspects. And I think, yeah, if for example a platform like Binance or Solana would get major legal approval by governments and stuff like that, that's like huge news for the space. And since in the crypto space everything is like mini universes around coins, for example, things on the Binance smart chain will also benefit and stuff like that. So yeah, I think yeah, the platforms and the smart chains around them will be interesting. Same thing with Solana. Like if anything happens positively for the legal entity, it might reflect well on the coin and the coins related to the coin.
Yeah, I mean, people just have to look at how important it is to have low fee rate, because that's primarily the big issue in Ethereum. If you're trying
Yeah.
to trade anything, the fees are incredibly high. I mean, it's nothing you've ever seen. And people in traditional finance are probably like get watery mouths just looking at, what the crypto space can get away with in terms of fees.
Hmm.
You
I
know,
mean,
'Cause, it's pretty. I mean, we say a good deal about what is positive about the crypto space and everything, but I think it's worth mentioning also that if you're trading anything on Ethereum, like gas fees, are incredible. I mean, sometimes you pay you pay as much as you're paying for the crypto in fees.
yeah,
So
but the thing is, it's all about proportions, because if you I think the top of the top for Ethereum fees were like $70. Okay, that sucks if you're buying 100, but if you're sending 100 million, that's the best rate you'll get anywhere.
absolutely, and this is why Ethereum philanthropy and stuff like that is really good. But you look at the average buyer, and it's really not. It's definitely not 100 million.
Yeah,
They're trying to get $100. If
true,
you
true,
and
true,
you have to
true.
pay like 30. Never mind $30. I think for 100 pound, what is it, for 100 pound Ethereum? If you're trying to exchange that into any other coin on the Ethereum platform, you might pay more than half of the coin that you're paying for.
Why?
I don't have I don't have the actual numbers in front of me, but I definitely tried to buy something before, and the fee might have been more than the actual amount that I was trying to buy.
But I
Um,
don't think at $100 or pounds.
you would be surprised, man.
I
I
think 50, yeah, but not 100.
yeah.
It never reached 100, and even with a couple of percents for the platform fee, it wouldn't get to that. I don't think so, unless that token itself had something crazy with it.
Yeah, if I think it just depends on how much the platform is being used. Because when Shiba Coin, for example, which is built on Ethereum platform, was popping off, the entire Ethereum network had incredibly high fees.
Yeah,
So that's a huge problem they need to solve, and that's a problem you would never have on Solana. So, as someone that comes from traditional finance and all of these swing traders and the people that are trading currencies and so forth that are having fees of 0.000 something, that I don't think they will happily jump on Ethereum. I think they
yeah,
would happily jump on Solana, however. And looking at the speed of onboarding at Solana, I think it's heading in only one direction, and that's up. Not in a straight line, so so make
yeah,
sure you buy low and sell high.
exactly.
I think it's a good time to wrap it up.
It is. It
Everybody
is.
for watching, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, see you next week on Legalized
Thanks,
Robbery.
everybody. Yeah. See you next time. Bye.
Peace and love.